All right, Hunter, I'm waiting for that first question. What's on your mind, Thomas? Patrick?
Let's go.
First base?
No, but I think we covered first base.
Yeah, we did.
For a while.
That's right.
Well, how about who's on first?
Yeah. Hey, who did that? The Three Stooges? Or who was it? That was
Laurel and Hardy,
Oh,
right?
Costello, yeah.
Abbott and Costello. Somebody is somebody.
I do have a question going back. We talked yesterday a little bit about Brian Shaw and his cutter.
Yeah, man. What a
When
pitch.
you were pitching,
Yes.
did anybody throw a cutter?
Yeah.
Who threw it back?
Well, I mean, there were some, pretty. You remember Jerry Royce?
Sure.
Jerry Royce had a natural fastball that cut,
Right.
and he'd turn it into a slider. So in a way, Shaw sort of pitches that way. I mean, Royce was a starter, but his ball naturally cut. I mean, it was a hard cutter. Al Leiter, cutter. Trevor Wilson, look it up. You know who he is?
No.
Pitched for the Giants. He was one of my
Oh, Trevor
teammates. Yeah,
Wilson.
Trevor Wilson had a natural cutter. So, it wasn't. Things became a little bit more specialized when pitches really started to be called pitches, but they were sort of fastballs that cut. The amount of attention paid to a certain pitch wasn't as prominent as it is now because of all the coverage that we have, right? I mean, we're really getting detailed on, a lot of certain things. And, pitch name has become a part of that, sort of started with the split-fingered fastball way back in the day, right? It used to be called just a changeup or, but things really became a little bit more detailed. But Jerry Royce, Al Leiter were two guys who really prominent for me, had good careers with what was a natural cutter.
Do you think Shaw's cutter plays anywhere?
Yeah.
At altitude?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's one of the
the
reasons.
best cutter in recent time is Mariano.
Mariano,
Yeah,
sure.
right. And yeah, I think the cutter plays anywhere. I think with what you need for any pitcher, whether it's Denver or sea level, the consistency of a release point, consistency of action. When the ball comes off your fingers and you impart spin on the ball, and if you're consistent, it's gonna break. Where the trouble comes in, and it could be in Denver or anywhere else, is if you poorly throw a pitch, it's gonna get hit, and in our ballpark, it's gonna get hit a little farther, and it's gonna stay in the air longer. But a properly thrown pitch works anywhere, and I think Brian consistently throws it properly, throws his mix of pitches properly.
Thank you.
Buddy, last year you got through the year using 8 pitchers, even juggling the young guys and
Right.
dealing with some injuries to you guys. Normally going in the year, how many pitchers do you kind of count on needing?
Well, yeah, I mean, ideally, when you start spring training, you like to feel really good about 8 guys, right? The 5 guys that, start your season in the rotation, and the 3 guys that you might have as depth, whether they're in the bullpen as long man or they might be in AAA. I think that's what most teams really try to do. That's their goal, is to have 8 starting pitchers that you feel can start a major league game and you feel confident that you can win it, based on, where they are in their talent level and where they are as pitchers. Knowing that, you also know that, a lot of things can happen during the course of the season. Last year, we showed pretty good durability, right, amongst our group. I mean, John broke his foot, Tyler had the bad knee, Chad was diagnosed with cancer, and that's where, a lot of the young guys stepped up and did a nice job, and they stayed durable, right? So that's how we were able to, sort of, bide some time till the other guys came back. But, that's the goal. But with that, you're always looking for starting pitching, and that's where, the Musgraves and Jimmy Olas and, some of the, farther down the line, whether it's Castellani, Almonte, some of these fellows are in big league camp, are going to get an opportunity to pitch in front of our eyes and probably, be around a little bit longer in spring training as opposed to maybe an early send down. Because these guys are our next wave of pitchers.
You look at guys like, of course, we saw quite a bit of Musgrave last year, but Almonte, Jimmy Ola, Howard, guys that you've
Right.
seen at the
Howard,
AAA level.
yeah.
Do you see guys that you come into it thinking they may be really close right now?
Well, they're getting closer. I don't know whether real close is the right, what we want to say, but they're getting closer, right? And anytime a guy's in big league camp and projected to go to AAA, they're close, right? Because they're it's that next step, and then it's up to them, how they pitch, and you can see great strides made in players in 1 year, in one off season to the next year. I mean, some things are put together by a player, and they're and it happens. So that's what you always hope for. You don't hope for any regression.
For those of us who haven't been here to talk about first base,
Right.
what do you want to see from, what do you want to see from Ryan?
Well, I think that's Michael. I think with Ryan, he had a really solid year last year, right? And this guy's a high school kid that signed with us, has made the steps, and then when you get to the AA level and perform, you get to the AAA level and perform, you touch the big leagues to get a little bit of the awe out of the way, and you get your first big league hit. I mean, these are steps that get you closer, but the skill set is there, to be a major league player. I think with Ryan, the test will be, here in spring training, whether he's able to handle, all phases of the game. Defense, we're critical eye every day on our players. The spring training performance, we'll watch and evaluate. We'll watch the at-bats. We'll watch the swings. Again, I mean, there'll be some evaluation of the statistical performance, but more importantly, I mean, that could one way or another, not be an accurate evaluation, because if you get 50 to 70 at-bats and you get a bunch of blue pits, that might increase the average, or you might hit a lot of balls on the nose, some hard hit balls that are caught, in a 4-week span of spring training games. But he's talented, and I think that whether he comes out of here on the 25-man roster, we'll see. But he's in a good position to show himself.
Inside that clubhouse, is there a renewed confidence after the payoff last year?
I think there is I don't know whether it's renewed, but I saw last year a shift in the mentality of who we think we are, and that's a good team. And I think there's a standing confidence in there, renewed. I think it's always been there from last year. So we got to keep that confidence moving forward, and hopefully that's the case, that all players feel, even the veteran players, Charlie and TJ and Nolan, the older guys, even the older guys who are come on board, Wade Davis, Shaw have come. I mean, I think there is. I know this for a fact. There is a group confidence.
I don't think I can describe Ryan Maltapia anymore as rail thin. Exactly. He's
Right.
pretty beefy.
Yeah, he's put on a little bit of weight. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you.
Yeah, he's beyond lithe.
Yes. Right. This is a step above. And I know you talked.
I snuck that one in there on you, Marty, Warren. No, he's put on. I don't know exactly, but there's a little bit more to the body, right? There's a little bit more. He's growing up, right?
Yeah.
He's as we get older, right? There seems to be a little bit. You fill out a little bit. Some guys go the other way, but most guys go the same way.
I know you talked to your players though. Was that something that was imparted on him?
That was part of the some of the exit meetings we had last year, was continue to have a solid off-season program. It wasn't so much weight gain. It was just, hey, just keep getting stronger.
Yeah.
And usually when a lot of times through an exercise program that's designed by our strength and conditioning staff, there'll be a little weight gain for those guys who want to get stronger.
Is that for purposes of hitting more for power or just for durability?
I think just for everything. Yeah, I think a stronger player is a better player, right?
You've got some outfielders like Dull and Tapia,
And Talkman and Cuevas
Cuevas.
and
Yeah.
Daza.
Yeah, guys that are, getting closer. Or
Right.
maybe even ready to break through.
Sure.
How much do you like that situation that you don't just have a job to hand to them, that they have to kind of
Yeah,
fight through?
there's competition. I think we've briefly talked about that, this week, amongst those guys who have been here about the competition for a few spots on this team, whether it's, maybe a couple spots on the pitching staff or, a couple spots on the 25-man roster and maybe a starting position, right? We feel good about, a lot of the guys going into the season that we've talked about, but there might be a new face that starts opening day for us, if everything stays the same health-wise and all that.
But in regard to Tapia, at this point in his career, what are the pluses and minuses of him as a possible leadoff guy?
Pluses are he's shown in the minor leagues, the bat-to-ball skill, the average. I think the speed component is a plus. Again, I think his hitability in the minors is a plus. Now, whether that hitability translates to the big leagues, we'll see. But we feel good about the potential of that happening. The leadoff hitter per se, there's all types. The prototypical one is where you're able to take some pitches, you hit good with 2 strikes. You swing at strikes, you take balls. Some of those finer details about what makes a really good big league hitter, are probably not answered yet with Ramil, but the at-bats that he has had, have been on balance pretty good major league at-bats. Excuse me, RD.
You're good.
And cut that out from the live feed that, that the Rockies produce, are putting out to the public.
Major League
And you guys
Baseball-
can edit that on Channel 9 and Channel 4. Hunter, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
First big league question.
So, Major League Baseball announced that they're going to be extending the netting in all the stadiums.
Yes.
So, how do you feel about that?
I think
decision?
it's I don't want to say it's long overdue, but I think we have seen the results of ballparks with no netting. What's great about it for me is that from what I've seen, and granted I haven't, I'm trying to think if I've really sat at a big league game behind netting. Probably not, right? And viewed it that way. I've been fortunate to be a little bit closer. But I think modern product of netting, meshing, whatever, the product itself is such where I don't think it really inhibits the viewing experience, and it does create a sense of comfort for those people who are very close to the dugout.
Another big thing this offseason is, they talked a lot about pace of play. Once
Who's
again.
they?
In the ownership meetings, they
Okay.
talked a lot about pace of play. Do you think that there is a problem with pace of play? They always talk about viewership numbers or down or whatever because of the pace. Do you think that pace is an issue?
I don't think viewership is down. I think it's at all-time highs. I will say this. I think that you can look at this both ways. I think there's a great tradition to this game and how it's played, and the pace of it and the timing. And that part of the game I love. Can we shave off some minutes? Absolutely. But I think some of the beauty of our game is some of the interactions that do maybe at times cause a pause in the game. The strategy moments on the mound, infield visits, pitching coach visits. Those are strategic and important to the outcome of a game. That's what I don't want to mess with. That's what I would hate to. Those things come in the way of these changes, because I think there's I think there's a lot of games that are won or lost with that delay of coach, players, or players on the mound talking about a specific moment in the game. It's strategy, but there's definitely can be some things that can shave minutes off the game. From the first pitch to the last.
Buddy, I'm looking at, when we broke camp last year, you had Marquez, who was a starter, but carried him in the bullpen in the beginning.
For 9 days and he didn't pitch?
Yeah, exactly. Looking at the group you have in the bullpen here and the starters, do you feel like if all goes well, you may not be able to carry your starter for 9 days at the start of the year, or carry your starter in the bullpen? Would you rather have that starter around in the bullpen, or maybe, have that guy starting in AAA because of the
Good question.
strength you have in the
Good question and fair question. That will play itself out, but if there's a pitcher that we feel needs to go to AAA and pitch, as opposed to be in our bullpen and be a longer man and not knowing when he's going to pitch, we will do that. I think, that is a distinct possibility that could happen, where we send a pitcher who made a lot of starts for us last year to the minor leagues. There might be a case, now everything stays the same, no injuries, everybody's performing, where we might think that, we might need that starter in the pen as a long man. Those questions will be answered a little bit by, spring training performance and the overall makeup that we feel is the best group for our team.
Hey, what'd you say to the guys? First meeting?
Oh, okay, I'm going to tell you guys. So anyway, I let it off with, I'm not going to tell you, Thomas.
Oh, what a tease, I really
Yeah,
thought
no. I said a few things. In general, in general, this was a group that I was very proud of. What happened last year, a lot of guys were returning. It was a great first step, and I've said this publicly, right? It was a great first step, for us as an organization, as a team, and specifically, we got some work to do. There's still places to go for this team that ultimately, lead to where we want to be, and that's a world championship. There's some other things I said, but can't share it with you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks, bud.
Okay, good to see you guys.